Hey guys, and welcome to an original Retry This production. Today, I'll be offering my C++ tutorial number 15, teaching you about changing your parameters for your functions in C++. By changing your parameters, I mean that we will be changing the amount of parameters that we have. So we will have 0 parameters for one of our functions, and we'll have 2 parameters for another function. Before this, we only used a function with 1 parameter. Now I'll be teaching you about changing the amount. So, first let's create a function with 0 parameters, or no parameters. To do that, I'll make a string function, I guess. I'll call it string name. And because we have 0 parameters to create the function with, we do opening bracket, closing bracket. And then we can add our, opening parentheses, closing parentheses. Then we can add our opening bracket. And inside, since we have no parameters to edit or use the function with, we should add a return value. So return, quotation marks, I'll just return retry this. The string retry this. Semicolon, then a closing bracket. So the function will return the simple value of retry this to the console. So to use this function, since we have no parameters, we still have to see it out though. So we have to see out, opening carets. The function is called name, so we see out name. And even though the function has no parameters to edit, we still have to see out the parentheses because they're still part of the function. So see out name, opening parentheses, closing parentheses, the ending carets, then end L. So when we see this out, execute, compile and run, and fast forward this. When we see this out, we got the return value of retry this, which was the return value intended. Retry this. So now let's create another function, but this time it'll have multiple parameters. Well, in this case, I'm going to have 2, but whatever. So in this case, I'll make an integer function. So I'll call it int adding. Open parentheses. So I'll say int first as my first parameter. And since we have multiple parameters, since we're going to have multiple parameters in this function, we want C++ to understand that. So we separate each parameter with a comma. So int first, comma, int last. This is our second parameter. Now, I'll rename it int second for our second number. Then the closing parentheses, opening bracket. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the two numbers together, int first and int second. So I'll do int sum equals first plus second, semicolon, then closing bracket. So what this function will do, I put the closing bracket so I won't forget. It's like the second time I recorded this because I forgot the semicolon in the first one. So what this function will do is it will add the 2 numbers together, first plus second, then it'll return the value in sum. So we have to put return sum. So it will return these 2 integers added together. So it'll return int sum, which is equal to first plus second. So now that we did that, we can see it out. We'll see out adding. Now, since we have multiple parameters, we have to have 2 different input numbers. So to do that, we would separate them with the comma. So adding, open parentheses, let's add 15, comma, 20. 15 is the first input, and 20 is the second input. They're separated with commas, as you can see. And the closing parentheses, and L. And so we add these 2 integers together. So when we compile and run, fast forward this, we got the value of 35 here. This is our first function, the name function. And then we have the value of 35. 15 plus 20 is obviously equal to 35. So we know that our function worked correctly. And yeah, that's about it. We made one function with no parameters and one function with 2 parameters. So yeah. Well, this has been an original Retry This production. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe.